Sienna Songbird here, coming live to you from the outdoor worldly office today, Johnson City, Tennessee. I thought this was a nice wall to sit in front of. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about why chasing diagnoses might not actually get you what you want, and what might be a more effective and easier approach to solving our health challenges. Um, I've never really been much for diagnoses, but maybe that was partially because of having such a bad experience with the first time I was really sick and finally dragged myself to the doctor with a notebook full, like a full page notebook, 11 by 8 size, with symptoms written on every line, about a page and half of the next page. And I went to the doctor. It was like money and so much effort when I had no energy, and I was hopeful. And the doctor didn't spend that much time with me. I told him what was going on. I think they ran they ran some tests, and he basically came back in and was like, "We can't find anything wrong with you, but we could give you antidepressants." And just like the shock and like the feelings of betrayal, like almost like, wait, are you not seeing this evidence that I've brought in? And yeah, just leaving just utterly perplexed and dismayed. And I lost a lot of faith in doctors at that time, if I still had any. And I've heard that story from a lot of people, actually. And then as I started to learn more about it, I started to learn that that unfortunately doctors really just don't know what's going on with the human body as much as we like to think they do. Like, yeah, they've been to all this schooling and they're learning something. But it seems like some pretty basic mechanics of the body's processes are uh not their main cup of tea in those programs, because it's not that hard to actually educate oneself and come to more nuanced conclusions than it seems like a lot of the doctors do. So I kind of stopped chasing diagnoses, but I also I realized throughout the process that I did meet criteria for a variety of diagnoses, especially when I was the most sick. I could have racked up a few, but I didn't really fight for that, because I started to learn that the diagnoses are actually just labels that they give to a set of symptoms that they commonly see together. And this basically helps them to feel like they have a sense of what's going on, and that they're not completely useless. But unfortunately, even if you get and they keep multiplying. Like, these diagnoses are just they're making them up. They're exponentially growing every year. Like, oh, the picture looks a little different, we're going to call it this, especially when we get into the autoimmune categories of things. It's a snowballing effect of labeling sets of symptoms. And then what do they do when they give you these diagnoses? What do they tell you? They're like, well, there isn't really anything we can do about this. Not much you can do. Some of the diagnoses we have this sort of off-label use for this drug. You can, you can try that. Some people go through a bunch of different really strong types of medications or steroids or things that they don't even really tell you how they mess you up, in addition to the ways you're already messed up. But a lot of them are also like for life plans of medication. So it's not like they're offering a cure. So if they tell you anything, it's usually a drug that you have to be on forever. And did you know also that oh, there's a dog coming, so we're gonna have a little little moment. It's okay. It's okay. Shh. Okay. Okay, we had a dog go by, but we've averted the worst of the problem. So, and then I started, so if you start looking into these diagnoses at all, you also start to see that they completely overlap with each other. So it's like sometimes such a fine distinction of when you qualify for one versus the other. And really, they're almost more, even though the names have nothing to do with each other, because they usually have something, they're just named after some guy who decided to label the specific set of things or however he wanted to label it. But you start to see that they're actually kind of more like a continuum of conditions rather than set distinct diseases. And this is part of the giveaway that leads to sort of the way that I see a lot of contemporary diseases. And of course, there are some exceptions of diseases, but I'm mostly talking about some of the most common ones that sort of build up over time that are becoming really common and popular. And like, just as a bucket example, we could say like the autoimmune kind of diseases, different kinds of chronic illness as well. Chronic fatigue syndrome, but Lyme, MS, all the and the gut autoimmune and issues. Really, they're just like the different labels are ways of labeling the slightly different expression in a person's system of possibly a similar root issue. The way I see it is that it's more of like a system overload, kind of like a bucket that gets filled up, filled up, filled up, and then eventually overflows. And it's what we would call a toxicity crisis. And it's okay. And again, the way that it expresses is different for different people. And it's like mostly because there's like weaker links in the system, like somebody has a weaker area over here in the urogenital, or someone has a weaker hormonal area, or someone has a weaker neurological area, again, mostly because of distinct reasons that I could get into. But that's why we see like the toxicity overload present in what seems like different kinds of symptoms. So that's part of why the way I like to see it is more of like a big picture, and that different systems of the body are affected by this toxicity and expressed differently, which can get you different kinds of labels. So the toxicity builds up all over the body, but part of the trick of healing is to actually find the pathway to drain it and get it out. And this is why I'm so focused on the liver, so excited about the possibilities that are possible through working with the liver, because the liver is like a filter in the body. It's filtering the blood, it's filtering literally everything, and it controls what gets sent out, what gets put back into the bloodstream. And it's also in charge of like a million other things. It has wears many hats, has many jobs. But that crucial aspect of like, if you are trying in any way to clean up the situation of the body, then you need the filter to be working. So, and then of course, like there are ways also to read through the body's symptoms whether or not it's likely that the liver is involved. If you yourself want to check out if you have these symptoms that are particular to pointing us to liver issues, I'm happy to share a quiz that I made that walks you through that. Let me know if you want that quiz. But in the meantime, I hope this has been really helpful and valuable for you to just hear about my perspective and sort of stance on whether or not we need to be chasing these diagnoses. And if we don't have a diagnosis, or if we don't want to go that route of trying to get one, then kind of how can we proceed? Or have we gotten diagnoses, but they're not really helping us heal, then this is another avenue. So, um, hope that was helpful. Wishing you all a beautiful day. I'm Sienna Songbird, and wishing for all